Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Close your eyes and picture a giant anaconda. You're probably imagining some unstoppable, mythical river monster, right? A creature that just absolutely dominates the Amazon with terrifying ease. Well, today we are completely tearing down that myth because the reality is actually a darkly comedic tragedy of swampy survival, endless waiting, and just exhausting physical labor. We're going to break down what it actually takes to survive as one of the largest snakes on planet Earth. And spoiler alert, it is far from glamorous.
So, congratulations! You have officially won the genetic lottery and you are an apex predator. You probably think your new life is going to be a total breeze, just lounging in the sun, ruling the swamp, and eating whenever you feel like it. But honestly, are you ready to suffer? Because your reward for being born as a legendary constrictor isn't an easy life. It's a lifetime of parasites, starvation, suffocation, and a jungle, and eventually a human population that is constantly trying to wipe you off the map.
Your glamorous new life begins right here, in the incredibly dense, warm, and literally suffocating humid air of a South American swamp. Now, there are no protective eggs for you. You slip into life directly from the comfort of your mother's body, born live straight into the muck. But please do not expect a warm maternal embrace. The exact second she pushes you out, your mom vanishes. To her, giving birth is virtually indistinguishable from pooping. She just drops you in the swamp and bails. So you and your siblings immediately have to scatter in all directions with one singular, terrifying goal. Don't get eaten.
And that brings us to the absolute worst thing you can possibly be in the Amazon jungle. Cute. Yep, right now you are only a couple of feet long. To the jaguars, the caimans, and the large wading birds circling above you, you aren't some legendary apex predator. No way. You are an irresistible, highly edible, bite-sized noodle. You're basically a slithering appetizer. Every shadow from above and every tiny ripple in the water is a lethal threat. The jungle absolutely does not care that you're new here.
So how do you even survive this nightmare? Well, take a look at your skin. It's this beautifully patterned mix of green and brown. This camouflage is your absolute first real advantage in this brutal place. To avoid ending up as a bird's lunch, you have to learn to disappear entirely. You slither into the murky brown river current, blending perfectly with the mud and the underbrush. You slip unnoticed beneath the surface. And for a brief second, floating in that murky water almost feels safe. But then, the hunger kicks in. Out here, if you don't eat, you die. Your senses are still kind of developing, sure, but they're already sharp enough to pick up these tiny vibrations in the murky water. You notice a small fish darting by. It's the perfect target for a beginner. So you freeze. You let the natural river current carry you, drifting closer and closer like a piece of dead wood. And then, bam, your jaws clamp down with shocking speed. You've caught a tiny, unsuspecting fish. It's a small victory, sure, but a victory nonetheless. You really need to grow, and you need to grow fast. So you spend your early days just slithering through the swamps. You keep just your eyes and your nostrils above the water surface, surviving on those tiny fish and small frogs. But eventually, you enter your juvenile phase, and childhood snacks just don't cut it anymore. You literally have to move up the menu. You spot a small rodent, foolishly venturing right up to the water's edge. You wait patiently just below the surface, and then you strike with lightning speed. You wrap your coils around it, squeezing tight until the struggling stops. You're getting bigger, you're getting faster, and you're getting much more lethal. Now, as you grow, the stakes obviously get higher. You've got your eyes on bigger prizes now, but remember, there are still jaguars and much larger anacondas out there that would love to eat you. Then you see it, resting on the riverbank, a basking juvenile caiman. You have a choice to make. Is this a super risky move, or is this your first big test as a real hunter? You slink into the water, sliding gently toward the caiman with the grace of a shadow. Your muscles coil, you're ready to strike, and bam, you take it down. Turns out it wasn't actually as tough as you thought it'd be. All right, let's ground ourselves in reality for a second here, because not every day is some cinematic victory. Sometimes you just have to tell yourself, well, that wasn't your finest moment, but don't worry, no one saw that. That's the embarrassing reality of your daily survival. Because there are days when your prey completely outsmarts you. Take, for instance, the time you tried to graduate to eating a capybara, the world's largest rodent. You struck, but instead of a swift kill, you ended up being dragged halfway across the muddy river by a giant panicking guinea pig before it managed to break free. Completely humiliating. A massive part of your learning curve is mastering the sheer, exhausting patience required to be an ambush predator. See, you aren't out chasing prey down across the savanna. No, you sink slowly beneath the surface of the swamp, eyes barely visible, fasting for agonizingly long weeks. Your metabolism crawls to a near halt as your body slowly processes whatever meager meal you managed to catch last. You just wait in the mud. Finally, after what literally feels like an eternity, a group of grazing capybaras approaches the water's edge. Your muscles tense, you're ready to strike. But then, disaster strikes. You're thinking, where did this jerk pop up from? Because the jungle is incredibly crowded. Just as you are about to strike, a massive adult jaguar, or maybe a larger, much angrier caiman, crashes your perfect ambush. And you quickly realize that asking them for just a small bite to curb your hunger is a terrible idea. You're completely outmatched. You are forced to back off, abandon your meal, and start that agonizing waiting process all over again somewhere else. Somehow, though, you survive the mud, the starvation, and the constant threats. Eventually, you hit 15 feet long, and guess what? You're still growing. At this point, your body is pure, unadulterated muscle. You are no longer that struggling juvenile. You've mastered stealth, blending seamlessly into the jungle with your patterned skin. You have a keen sense of smell that tracks prey through the thickest underbrush. You have officially reached a size that commands deep respect and, honestly, healthy sheer terror from almost every creature in your territory. Now, what's really interesting about this phase is the massive upgrade in your diet. You're totally done with tiny fish and frogs. You have officially graduated to the adult menu. We're talking massive capybaras, fast-moving deer, wild pigs, and even the occasional adult caiman that dares to cross your path. And remember, you don't use venom. You use raw, suffocating power. You coil, you restrict their blood flow, and you just wait for the heartbeat to stop. You are a true force to be reckoned with. But hey, don't celebrate just yet, because being huge brings a whole new set of exhausting chores. But here's the catch. As you get bigger, the jungle actually starts to feel a lot smaller. Human habitat destruction is constantly shrinking your world, which forces you to search even harder for a quiet place to call your own. First, you literally have to drag your massive heavy body, which, by the way, is incredibly agile in the water, but agonizingly slow and vulnerable on land, through the dense underbrush and over fallen logs. It is so physically taxing. You search for days to find a secluded, prey-rich stretch of river hidden beneath a tree canopy. And finally, you mark it with your scent. Okay, so you've secured your territory. Now it's time to pass on your genes. Mating season rolls around, and it's not just about your daily survival anymore. You pick up a scent trail through the thick swamp, and you follow it until you find a beautiful female anaconda. The courtship is the slow, winding spiral dance. The two of you just coil around each other for hours in the mud and water, moving together in this mesmerizing spiral until the deed is done. And what is your grand legacy? Between 20 to 40 live baby anacondas. A few months later, the female finds a secluded spot, pushes them out into the dangerous, humid air, and then she bails. She completely abandons them. Her job is done. She leaves them behind to fend for themselves, fully knowing most of them won't even survive their first year. The miserable, brutal cycle of jungle survival begins all over again for the exact same bite-sized noodles that you used to be. So the crucial point here is that time spares literally no one, not even an apex predator. As you get older and even heavier, the sheer wear and tear of jungle survival really begins to show. Let's be honest. You are still incredibly strong, but you just aren't as fast as you once were. That boundless youthful energy that fueled your every hunt, it fades. Your massive body takes immense effort just to haul out of the mud now. You can't just strike at everything that moves anymore. You're forced to become highly strategic. Every single calorie you spend has to be absolutely worth it. Picture this. You're submerged in the cool water, completely still. You sense a capybara grazing casually by the edge. Normally, at your massive size, you wouldn't even bother with a snack this small. But today, you're feeling a little nostalgic. It's been a while since you took one down. You wait. It inches closer, totally oblivious. In a flash, you strike. Your coils wrap around it in an instant and it's over. You think, yeah, I've still got it. But as you swallow your meal and prepare for another weeks-long fast, you kind of realize the thrill just isn't the same anymore. And then comes the heartbreak. One day, you're stalking a young deer near the edge of the water. You coil those massive muscles, getting ready to unleash your terrifying strike. But as you lunge, something goes terribly wrong. The deer senses you at the absolute last possible second and bolts. You try to chase it, but your body just refuses to move fast enough. You miss.
It is your first failed hunt in a really, really long time. But honestly, worse than the hunger is the feeling in your muscles. It's this deep, heavy exhaustion. The sheer weight of the years has finally caught up with you.
So, let's recap the miserable reality of your life cycle here. You literally start out as highly edible bait, completely abandoned at birth. You fight your way through the juvenile years, enduring the humiliation of getting dragged around by capybaras. Through sheer will, you achieve this brief window of pure, unstoppable muscle power. But surviving the poachers, the habitat loss, and humans who want to kill you out of sheer fear, that's a miracle in itself. And your ultimate reward for surviving all of that? Reaching the senior phase, where you are simply too tired to even hunt.
Because ultimately, the jungle always takes you back. You slither back into the dark, muddy water, feeling the crushing weight of your own massive body, knowing full well that tomorrow isn't going to be any easier. Being a giant anaconda isn't about ruling the river like some mythical king. It is an exhausting, lifelong war against starvation, larger predators, human threats, and ultimately your own aging body. So the next time you envy the apex predator, ask yourself, would you really trade places just to slowly fade away in the mud?